Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about the neuroendocrinology in relation to the reproduction. Here we are going to basically see about the female reproductive system. In this topic we will learn about the hormonal control, its mechanism and how it acts on the reproductive system. We'll see overall the basics, and this topic is important as it helps us to understand basically the gynecological problem, that is the problems related to the menstrual cycle, the abnormalities of the menstrual cycle, as well as the primary infertility and the secondary infertility, which is the main problem in the today's generation. So now moving towards the topic, we'll start from the basic, that what are the hormones. So the hormones are the chemical signals which are transmitted from one side to the another, and here we all know the hormones are secreted into the hypothalamus and then through the bloodstream or to the its portal system vessels. That hormone acts upon the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland then secretes into the bloodstream, and via the bloodstream the hormones are transported to the target organs. Then we'll also see the feedback mechanism, that how these hormones are controlled, the secretion and the inhibition, how are they controlled. So we'll start to the topic. So we all know the hypothalamus is a site which is situated under surface of the brain. So the hypothalamus secretes some releasing hormones. So now what are the releasing hormones? The releasing hormones are the hormones that stimulate the corresponding hormone, which then act upon the secretory cells which are present in the pituitary gland. Maybe it be the anterior lobe of pituitary gland or the posterior lobe. And the hypothalamus as well secretes some inhibiting hormones, which are the hormones that inhibit the secretion of the corresponding hormone. Okay. Now this whole of the hypothalamus, pituitary gland and the hormonal system is controlled by a feedback mechanism. So this feedback can be negative as well as it can be positive feedback. The negative feedback mechanism is the commonest of all, whereas the positive feedback is the rare. Now we will see what is the negative feedback control. So the negative feedback control is, we'll just see through an example. See, if A is the cell of any of the target organ, okay, A cell is present on the target organ on which the hormone is going to act, okay, and these are the hormones which are released by the hypothalamus or the pituitary gland. Now these target cells contain the receptors for this hormone all over the cell. Now when the hormone is released from the hypothalamus, okay, through the hypothalamus, it's into the pituitary gland, okay, and the pituitary gland secretes this hormone. Now these hormones catch up onto the receptors. These hormones get attached to the receptors over this target organ, okay. Now whole the receptors are occupied by the hormone, and now no any receptors are left to get occupied by this hormone. Now this target organ then sends the message to the hypothalamus that now there are no receptors over the cell, please stop the secretion of this hormone. What it sends the stop signal to the hypothalamus, and this is called as, now what here occurs, this is called as the negative feedback. The cell over the target organ gives a negative feedback to the hypothalamus that please stop secreting the hormone, because now no receptors are present that will get occupied by these hormones. Same is opposite, like its opposite is the positive feedback control. This is the target organ, cell over the target organ. Now the hormone will act, or the hormone will get attached to the receptors. And through this action of the hormones over this target organ, this will produce some product, if we name it as B. Okay. Now this product, the action of this hormone, this is the product formed by the action of the hormone, acts upon the hypothalamus and gives a positive signal that please release more hormone, and the hypothalamus will secrete more hormone into the bloodstream. This is called as the positive feedback. These are the basic things which we need to know in this whole neuroendocrinology system, because whole of the system will work basically on the negative feedback or the positive feedback. If the cell sends a signal to the hypothalamus that please stop secreting the hormone, it is called as a negative feedback, and the action of the hormone will send a positive signal that please secrete more amount of hormone, it is called as the positive feedback. Now to understand the female reproductive system, like how the hormones act on the female reproductive system, we first basically should understand the HPO axis, that is the hypothalamo pituitary ovarian axis. Now what is HPO axis? That is the hypothalamo pituitary ovarian axis. Okay. The hypothalamus, which is present under surface of the brain, which acts upon the pituitary gland. There are the two lobes, that is the anterior pituitary gland and the posterior pituitary gland. And this anterior pituitary gland, that is the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, it's connected to the hypothalamus through the portal system. These are the vessels through which these are connected. Whereas the posterior lobe of pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus through a stalk. It is connected directly. And the hormones which are mainly we are concerned are secreted through the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, which will act upon the female reproductive organ, that is mainly on the ovary and side by side on the uterus also, that is on the endometrium lining. So the hypothalamus secretes a hormone called as the gonadotropin releasing hormone. So the hypothalamus secretes gonadotropin releasing hormone, which also we call it as the GnRH. This GnRH is secreted into the arcuate nucleus of the hypothalamus, and this GnRH then acts upon the anterior pituitary gland. It acts upon the beta cells which are present the anterior pituitary gland, that is the gonadotropes. Okay, acts upon the gonadotropes. Now these cells, that is the gonadotropes, will now secrete two hormones which are called as the follicle stimulating hormone which is called as the FSH, and luteinizing hormone, that is LH. So the GnRH acts upon the anterior pituitary gland on the gonadotropes, and the gonadotropes then secrete the two hormones called as the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. And these secreted follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone through the bloodstream will be transported to its target organ, that is towards the ovary. Ovary is the target organ for the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. I'll draw a big diagram over here of an ovary. So as we all know, through the time when during the fetal life, as the pregnancy conducts and a female child is born, there are many of the follicles which are formed in the ovary, and they have stopped at a particular phase. So there are many of the primordial follicles which are present in the ovary. These primordial follicles then start to develop, and they developed up to 2 to 5 mm of size. And these follicles are stimulated, or the growth of the follicles is totally dependent upon the follicle stimulating hormone. These follicles are now converted into the primary follicles. After this, a dominant follicle is selected on the basis of the number of the development of the granulosa cells, or the amount of the estrogen to the androgen ratio, which contains less amount of the estrogen and androgen ratio, is considered as a dominant follicle. And these follicles developed under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone. So under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone, this FSH controls the follicular development and the growth of the follicles, which continue into the differentiation. That is, there is a formation of antrum, or there is the formation of the granulosa cells. So this is wholly dependent upon the follicle stimulating hormone. Now over here I'll draw differentiated secondary follicle which is now developing. So these are the theca cells. And inside the theca cells there are the granulosa cells. Now as the follicle grows, under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, under the influence of follicle stimulating hormone, there is a development of LH receptors on the theca cells. So these are the theca cells, and these are the granulosa cells. So now under the influence of the FSH, there are the development of the LH receptors on the theca cells under the influence of FSH. So what over here occurs? The theca cells contains, so if we draw over here, these are the theca cells. And the theca cells contain the LH receptors. So the luteinizing hormone will act upon the theca cells. Under the influence of the luteinizing hormone, the theca cells produce the androgens. that is the androstenedione plus testosterone. Now, as the theca cells have the LH receptors, similarly granulosa cells contains the follicle stimulating hormone receptors. Now these androgens diffuse into the granulosa cells. Okay. So this is the granulosa cell present into the inner side of the theca cells. Now granulosa cells contains follicle stimulating hormone. So under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone, these androgens get diffused into the granulosa cells. Then in the granulosa cells, these androgens undergo the process which is called as the aromatization. And under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone, the granulosa cells produce estrogen. The major quantity is estradiol and the lesser quantity is estrone. Theca cells contains LH receptors, so under the influence of the luteinizing hormones, theca cells produce the androgens, that is the androstenedione and testosterone. These androgens then diffuse into the granulosa cells. Now granulosa cells under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone the androgens undergo the process of aromatization, which then forms the estrogen. Major quantity is estradiol and the lesser quantity is estrone. This is called as two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory. So this whole process is called as two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory. Theca cells, granulosa cells, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory helps in the production of the estrogen from the androgens, and this two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory occurs in the follicular phase. This whole process occurs into the follicular phase. Now, as we have seen, there is a production of the estrogen by the theory of two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory. So here there is a production from this developing follicle. There is a production of the estrogen, and this estrogen has negative effect on follicle stimulating hormone, as well as this estrogen has negative effect on luteinizing hormone. Now here it is the condition. Now the estrogen is formed in very lesser extent. Okay, so please remember, lesser amount of estrogen has negative effect on luteinizing hormone. Okay, now again there is a development of the follicle which will develop the theca cell, as well as there will be increase in the mass of the granulosa cells. So now granulosa cells, the process of aromatization will produce more amount of estrogen. So now there is a formation of the mature Graafian follicle, and there is a production of major quantity or the large quantity of the estrogen. So now this estrogen will have the positive feedback over the luteinizing hormone. So lesser amount of estrogen has negative feedback of LH, whereas larger amount has positive feedback on LH. So as the estrogen increases, the luteinizing hormone increases, which will cause the LH surge, and there will be the ovulation. There will be ovulation, and the ovum will come into the fallopian tube. Okay, now here there is a negative feedback of estrogen. As there is increase in the amount of the estrogen, there will be the negative feedback, so the FSH will be decreased. But as there is an increase in the larger amount of estrogen, there will be the positive effect on luteinizing hormone. There will be the sudden increase in the luteinizing hormone, which we all know it is called as the LH surge, which will lead to ovulation, and there will be the regression of the Graafian follicle, which will then in turn suddenly decrease in the amount of estrogen, which will again lead to decrease in the LH. Now this degenerated Graafian follicle gets converted into further regression. There is a regression. This we called as corpus luteum. The corpus luteum, now under the influence of the luteinizing hormone, will produce progesterone. And this progesterone is responsible for the development of the endometrium, development of spiral arteries, and glands. After the LH surge, within the 24 hours, the luteinizing hormone peak is dropped, and the luteinizing hormone comes to its normal stable level, and there is a lowering of the estrogen due to the lowering of the luteinizing hormone. But as there is an increase in progesterone, as the corpus luteum secretes the progesterone, which will develop the endometrium, the spiral arteries, and the glands. So this was the hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian axis. And also I want to tell you that if there is an implantation, if there is a fertilization of the oocyte and the sperm, there will be the implantation, and there will be no degeneration of the corpus luteum. So the hormonal level of the estrogen and progesterone will be maintained, which will maintain the inner lining of the uterus, that is the endometrium, and there will be the implantation, and the further hormonal activity of the corpus luteum will be taken up by the placenta, and the placenta will secrete the HCG, which will again act as the hormone. But if there will be no implantation, there will be sudden drop, there will be the degeneration of the corpus luteum, which will lead to sudden drop of estrogen and progesterone, which will start the breakage of the endometrium, the spiral arteries, and the glands, and this will be shaded out which we called as the menstruation. Now, if there is any problem in the production of GnRH or the secretion of FSH or LH, or if there is any abnormality of the action of the FSH on the follicles, if there is no rupture of the follicle, if there is no ovulation due to the problem in the production of the estrogen, the action of the estrogen or the luteinizing hormone, or if the progesterone and the estrogens are not produced in the sufficient amount of quantity, there will be the problem or the irregularities of the menstrual cycle, and these irregularities in the hormone as well and as well in the menstrual cycle might lead to the primary infertility or the secondary infertility. So the hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian axis plays a major role in a female patient, as all her body is under the control of these hormones. We will again see the H2O axis. The hypothalamus, the arcuate nucleus in the hypothalamus, secretes the gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is the GnRH. This GnRH acts upon the gonadotrophs, that is the cells which are present on the anterior pituitary gland. Under the influence of the GnRH, the gonadotrophs then secrete the two hormones which are called as the follicle stimulating hormone FSH or the luteinizing hormone, that is the LH. These FSH and LH through the bloodstream are then transported towards the target organs, and the target organs are the ovary or the side by side the uterus. Now these follicle stimulating hormone is responsible for the development and the differentiation of the primordial follicles which are present in a female since her fetal life. Now under the influence of FSH, the primordial follicles get inverted into the primary oocyte, and then dominant follicle is decided, and this dominant follicle then gets matured. As there is a development and the maturation of the primordial or the primary follicle, there is a development of the theca cells and the granulosa cells. So this luteinizing hormone also helps in the development of the selected dominant follicle, and the selection of the dominant follicle is wholly and solely responsible by the follicle stimulating hormone. Now when there is a development, there is a growth, and there is a growth in the massive amount of the granulosa cells. Now we have also seen the two gonadotropin theory. We will revise over here again. So these are the theca cells, and the inner cell are the granulosa cells. The theca cells, under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone, develop the luteinizing hormone receptors, whereas the granulosa cells contains the follicle stimulating hormone receptors. Now the theca cells, under the influence of the luteinizing hormones, produce the androgens. These are the androstenedione and the testosterone, and these androgens then get diffused into the granulosa cells. Now the granulosa cells, under the influence of the FSH, and there is a process of aromatization, these androgens get converted into the estrogen. So there is a greater amount of the production of the estrogen during the development of the follicles. This is called as a two-cell, two-gonadotropin theory, and this is the process, that is the production of the estrogen occurs into the follicular phase. Now the estrogen has been produced, and this estrogen has a negative effect over the FSH. So as the estrogen amount increases, there is a decrease in the follicle stimulating hormone, so only one follicle gets properly developed. Now over here there is a lesser amount produced, so the lesser amount of estrogen has negative effect of LH, but as there is an increase in the size, there will be the greater amount of the estrogen, such as before the ovulation, that around 36 to 48 hours prior to the ovulation, there is sudden increase in the amount of the estrogen, that it reaches to its peak value. And due to this, the larger amount has the positive feedback on LH. There is a sudden increase in the level of the luteinizing hormone, which will result into the LH surge. So this will result into the LH surge, and there will be the ovulation. So this whole phase is called as the follicular phase. Now after the ovulation, that is the post ovulation, what occurs? The oocyte is carried through the fallopian tube and the Graafian follicle degenerates and become the corpus luteum. Now due to the estrogen there is a negative feedback and there is a decrease in the follicle stimulating hormone, but there is some amount of luteinizing hormone left in this post ovulatory phase. So what happens? We will see over here. See, this is the degenerated or the post ovulatory phase. Okay. This contains the theca cells as well as the granulosa cells. Now what will occur? The granulosa cells under the influence of the luteinizing hormone in the presence of the low density lipoproteins which are present in the bloodstream, will lead the conversion of the androgens to the progesterone. So in the post-ovulatory phase, see, please remember, in the post-ovulatory phase, the granulosa cells under the influence of the luteinizing hormone and in the presence of the low density lipoproteins, the androgens are converted into the progesterones. Okay. And so as there is the more amount of production of the progesterone in the post-ovulatory phase, there is a sudden increase in the level of the progesterone which causes the negative feedback to the FSH as well as to the luteinizing hormone and to the estrogen. So after the ovulation there is a sudden drop in the level of the estrogen and there is a sudden drop in the level of the luteinizing hormone. Now after the sudden drop of the estrogen and luteinizing hormone, after the few days, like around the 17th or the 18th day, what happens in the luteal phase? See, if these are the theca cells which contains the luteinizing hormone receptors. So under the influence of the luteinizing hormone, under the influence of the luteinizing hormone, what happens? The theca cells produce the androgens as we have seen earlier, that is the androstenedione plus testosterone. Testosterone. Okay. And these testosterones then get diffused into the granulosa cells. Now please remember, this is the luteal phase. So due to the negative feedback effect, there will be no presence of the follicle stimulating hormone in that level. But now the luteinizing hormone has come to its stable level. Okay. So now the granulosa cells also under the influence of the luteinizing hormone convert these androgens into the estrogen, that is estradiol and estrone. and this is called as the two-cell one gonadotropin theory, and this occurs into the luteal phase. So in the luteal phase, the estrogen is produced through the two-cell one gonadotropin theory, and the gonadotropin which is acting over here is the luteinizing hormone which acts upon the theca cells as well as the granulosa cells. So now, due to the one cell one gonadotropin theory, around the 17th or the 18th day, there is a slight rise in the production of the estrogen, and the corpus luteum produces the estrogen as well as the progesterone, where the luteinizing hormone is on its stability level, and this progesterone and estrogen help in the development of the endometrium, the spiral arteries and the glands, which are responsible for the development of the implanted zygote. And if no implantation occurs, there will be the menstruation. So this is the HPO axis, which is of the utmost importance, which plays a very important role in a female reproductive life. Otherwise, this might lead to various gynecological problems. In the next video, we will see about the hormones that are at the utmost importance in the female reproductive system.